Hello everyone, good evening. You're with Delhi Demands. We are coming to you live from Vijay Chowk. In exactly 25 days from now, the National Capital Region will queue up to vote again. What does the city want from its next government? Well, we've already discussed law and order, we have discussed Bijli Pani, we have discussed women's security. Today we are taking a closer look at waste management and cleanliness. If you ask me why we are looking at that particular topic, let me tell you that Delhi on its own produces some 10,000 metric tons of garbage every day, the highest anywhere in the country. And worryingly enough, Delhi is also running out of space to dump its own garbage. Joining me this lovely evening here at Vijay Chowk is Bharti Chaturvedi. She's from Chintan, Bindeshwar Pathak. You know him. He's the founder of Sulabh. Also with me is Sangeeta. She works for Rice. But before I get to all my guests here, just take a look at why Delhi's garbage crisis has reached breaking point.
As the national capital, Delhi is a shabby mascot for the country. It generates 8,000 metric tons of waste daily, the highest of any Indian city. By 2020, Delhi needs an additional area of 28 square kilometer, that's more than the entire spread of Luchen's bungalow zone, to dump 15,000 tons of garbage daily. And that will be difficult to find. The 3 landfill sites at Bhalaswa, Ghazipur and Okhla are already full. But dumping in these sites is still going on. So what are the problems with the waste management system in the capital? Firstly, the 2,500 community bins across the capital are not serviced as frequently as they should be. The door-to-door collection of waste is not properly institutionalized, and so only 15% of Delhi benefits from this. There is a failure to segregate our recyclable waste from non-recyclable waste when at least 30% of our waste is recyclable. Out of the 50% of our waste that can be composted, we are only composting 6% of it. And finally, the technology used to treat our waste is poor. A lot of our garbage that is not collected properly and then dumped at one of the dumping sites like this one often ends up in open drains, big and small, flowing through our neighborhoods. Now, many of these drains are simply meant to carry rainwater and empty that into the Yamuna. And this is how so much garbage ends up into the river. This is also true of a sewage system. 45% of Delhi does not have sewer lines. Many areas with sewer lines are not properly connected to a sewage treatment plant. Much of the sewage is carried through drains meant to collect rainwater, which empties into the Yamuna, turning the river into an open drain. So while Narendra Modi's Swachh Bharat is a step in the right direction, activists say it's only a starting point and we need to look beyond mere littering as a problem. Delhi needs more than a broom to sweep it clean. With VJ PK Das, this is Jagriti Chandra for CNN-IBN.
So by the looks of it, Delhi may just drown in its own waste. Bharti Chaturvedi, you worked extensively in the area. How did we manage to mess up Delhi's waste management system so comprehensively?
I think we've done a whole bunch of things wrong. Firstly, the biggest problem is we don't think local. We have to think local. We have to think that we have to handle waste at the local level. We have to use local resources such as our kabadis and our waste pickers. We have to get doorstep collection for every single household. We don't do that. In fact, we haven't even educated our people to appreciate kabadiwalas. If we did that, we could compost locally. That would take care of nearly 55% of our waste. We would be able to recycle all 20% such as paper and plastics that are recyclable, and above all, we wouldn't need these landfills which are polluting our water very, very severely and irreversibly. And we found at Chintan that in fact 87% of the people actually don't know the difference between biodegradable and non-biodegradable.
So segregation, you're saying, is the big thing. If we begin to segregate at the level of our homes, that could solve a lot of problems for Delhi.
I think it won't solve the problem alone. I think we have to look at including waste pickers. If they already do a lot of our segregation, but they have not been given any space by the government. They need space, and you can't give a huge patch of space. You have to do it locally.
In fact, we have a rag picker with us here. Akbar, आप हमको बताइए कि दिल्ली को साफ करने के लिए क्या चाहिए? आप लोग जो हैं बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट कड़ी हैं, क्योंकि दिल्ली में जितना वेस्ट होता है 20% जो है आप लोग सेग्रीगेट करते हैं. आप हमें बताइए कि सेग्रीगेशन की अगली सरकार को क्यों जरूरत है, क्यों इन्फोर्स करना चाहिए सेग्रीगेशन?
जी, सबसे ज्यादा दिल्ली में कबाड़ी लोगों की इसलिए जरूरत है क्योंकि ये लोग जो है 20% कूड़ा उठा लेते हैं और अगर इसमें क्या है, इनके हेल्थ में भी दिक्कत होती है. अगर घरों से बिल्कुल साफ सुथरा कूड़ा मिले, जैसे सूखा कूड़ा अलग और गीला कूड़ा अलग, तो इनसे इनके आधे प्रॉब्लम भी सॉल्व हो सकती है, जैसे बीमारी सबसे भी ये सही रह सकते हैं.
Bindeshwar Pathak, you are with Sulabh International. Why something like waste management? Why something, like cleanliness, sewers? The fact that, Delhi still doesn't, 45% of Delhi still doesn't have sewers. Everything ends up in the Yamuna, making it one dirty, stinky sewer. Why is it never an election issue? Is it an election issue?
It is an election issue. Issue taken up by the people, those who are going to vote. And they should ask, what you are going to do for all these things? So I entirely agree with you that this should be very important demand from the public, how you are going to manage the waste in the city of Delhi.
And it's a question we don't ask our governments emphatically enough, which is why we never get any concrete answers.
Bharti told you. Now, the question is, the whole Sahadra area, you flush the toilet and then it goes where? Only the drain leading to Yamuna. Now, the slum area, people defecate in the open. Except some toilets in NDMC area, all toilets are dysfunctional. So who are going to look after those things? People should demand.
And there's some 2,000 communal toilets, I believe, in the
More
city.
than that,
and very badly maintained. They become a security threat to women.
Yes, of course, because when they go in the evening, they have to face a lot of problems in the slum area. And so therefore, you see any Jamuna area, all this area, the question is that the city father has to look after well. Only then problems can be solved.
And it also is a health issue. I was thinking I'll discuss sanitation in the next segment, but since he's brought it up, Sangeeta, this is also a health issue.
Yes, it definitely is a health issue. Between 2 and 3 lakh infants die every year because of exposure to a bad sanitation environment. And so, not only do children die, but they're often stunted both physically and cognitively because of exposure to open defecation. And so these children grow up to be shorter, less intelligent, and they end up making less money later in life. Another recent study of several slums in Delhi showed that people who live in households that get flooded report having diarrhea more often than people who live in households who don't get flooded. So what's really important is to make sure that sewage stays in the sewer and doesn't, cause other people to become sick.
So essentially what you're saying is most of us generally tend to think that sanitation is really a rural problem. But you're saying it's as much an urban problem because 3% of Delhi still defecates in the open. Surprising given this is the national capital.
Actually, 50 diseases are caused. Not only diarrhea and dysentery. 50 diseases are caused because of lack of sanitation and toilets.
Sangeeta, go ahead.
Yes, 3% of households in Delhi do not have a toilet. And, that may seem like a small number, but it's actually 100,000 households, so 1 lakh households in Delhi do not have a toilet. Now, we still really need to understand why these households defecate in the open instead of doing something else, instead of perhaps using a community latrine. Do they not have access to a community latrine? Do they only have access to a poorly maintained community latrine? Or is it something that has more to do with people's attitudes? So my colleagues and I looked into why so many rural Indians defecate in the open, and what we found is that it has a lot to do with people's attitudes. People think that latrines are impure, particularly the kinds of latrines that the government builds, and so they, instead of using the latrines that they may have, they instead defecate in the open. Is that what's wrong, or is it some other reason? We really need to understand what the problem is before we can come up with.
So you need more than a bathroom to solve India's sanitation problem. I'm coming back to waste management because there's something, Sangeeta, I want to ask you. What are Delhi's non-dumping options? Burning your waste, not possible. There are environment concerns. Compost, yes, it's a great idea. 50% of our waste can be translated into compost. But where are the buyers? What do you do with that compost? It ends up it ends up becoming manure and then becoming garbage once again.
So I think that Delhi has an ideal solution for its compost, because actually all our municipalities have huge horticulture departments. So does the DDA, so does the CPWD. So they have to offer us a minimum support price. And as we have the new government and they get the budget this year, they need to be able to budget for procuring compost from small composters, which is under 10 tons a day, instead of procuring compost from other sources.
You know, the government, if you ask the Delhi government, they'll always tell you, look, we have this entire program trying to convert garbage into energy. Is that something that has happened? Is that something that is sustainable in the long term?
Well, let me tell you this. I think it's really not waste to energy, it's waste of energy. Because it causes pollution, it's unviable. Everywhere in the world, we're looking at recycling first. We have the world's most efficient recycling system through our waste pickers and through our kabadis. And instead, we've set up a false competition कि वही plastic, वही कागज लेके they're burning it. It doesn't make any sense. And in any case, why are we solving the 20% paper and plastic problem, which isn't such a big problem?
It's the wet.
Compost.
Yes, exactly.
You have tens of thousands of flies breeding for every square meter of wet waste. We need to solve the wet waste problem. Our municipalities and our government has to buy back compost at a minimum support
price. And we
need
to decentralize waste management. That is something.
Using the informal sector.
All right, I will have to take a very quick break at this point. It's a debate, it's a discussion. We continue on the other side as well. Do stay with us.
Definitely need more dustbins. There need to be more people cleaning the locality, and you know, the kooda ghars and the places where the garbage is dumped.
The maintenance of the sewers still requires some work. They are keeping it clean. If they maintain this consistency, I'm sure it will get better.
I think some more things need to be done, like more dustbins need to be placed, because there are no dustbins everywhere.
I've seen a change in last 1.5 or 2 months. Even our park, even the sewers, even that has been on a very regular basis.
If we expect our government to take the initiative and make the place look clean, I think it's our duty first to not litter and to be properly minded and keep the area where we walk and live clean.
Welcome back. You're with Delhi Demands. The unfortunate reality of India is that it has more cell phones than toilets. The Prime Minister Narendra Modi on the 2nd of October kick-started the Swachh Bharat campaign right here, just a few kilometers away. Sangeeta, you're a resident of this city as well. Have you seen any changes on the ground?
I've been seeing a lot of signs in airports and metros to make sure that public places stay clean. But what we need to remember is that it's exposure to a bad sanitation environment that kills hundreds of thousands of infants each year. So in order to achieve the Prime Minister's goal of a clean and open defecation-free and healthy India, we need to be focusing on, you know, ensuring that our sewage stays in the sewer and ensuring that people use toilets.
And that is not something that is happening even in Delhi. Electronic waste. All right. Okay.
The Prime Minister of India, Narendra Modi, has ignited the mind of the Indians to do towards sanitation, cleanliness. So now everybody is talking about cleanliness.
That is true. That is true. And you can't expect one man to change the country overnight. But electronic waste is something that you were concerned about.
Yeah, well, even around that, before I say that, I just want to say that the one ask I would say, to the future government and on behalf of a lot of citizens, including people who are waste pickers, kabadis, all of them, is please think local, let local doorstep collection give us local space to do local segregation, local composting, buy our local waste, and yes, e-waste, which is a huge crisis in our city. Dikhta nahi hai, lekin bahut badi crisis hai. So what I really want to say about e-waste is that the companies who are making e-waste are not following the rules and they're not showing any responsibility about collection. So the new government has to push them to be responsible so that citizens like all of us here don't breathe pollution, because bad recycling of e-waste is very polluting.
All right, since the show is called Delhi Demands, I'm going to ask a lady here. अगली सरकार जो आप चुनेंगे दिल्ली में, क्या आपका डिमांड है उससे सबसे बड़ा?
सरकार चाहे कोई भी हो, मुझे सरकार से कोई वो नहीं है। मैं चाहती हूँ कि कम्युनिटी टॉयलेट होने चाहिए, ताकि साफ सफाई होनी चाहिए उनमें। ऐसे नहीं होनी चाहिए कि कम वो बना देते हैं टॉयलेट और साफ सफाई नहीं होती, उसकी टूटे फूटे किवाड़ होते हैं, उनके छत नहीं होती है उन टॉयलेटों की, तो सब होनी चाहिए साफ सफाई के बारे में।
तो यानी कम्युनिटी टॉयलेट्स और बनाइए और उनको साफ रखिए, सिर्फ बना के छोड़ मत दीजिए। योर डिमांड, आपका क्या डिमांड होगा अगली सरकार से, जो भी सरकार आए?
रैक पिकर के लिए मेरे समझ से दो डिमांड है हमारे लिए। एक तो कि रैक पिकर को इंटाइटलमेंट मिले वेस्ट कलेक्शन का और एट सोर्स सेग्रीगेशन का। दूसरा कि जो रैक पिकर जो आज इलीगल और इनक्रोचर कहलाता है, उसको राइट मिले इस सिटी में उसको काम करने के लिए, ताकि वेस्ट के जो वैल्यूम है उसको रिड्यूस कर सके।
क्योंकि रैक पिकर जो है बहुत अहम हिस्सा है इस सिटी को साफ करने के लिए। मिस्टर पाठक, योर डिमांड फ्रॉम द नेक्स्ट गवर्नमेंट?
मेरा डिमांड है कि जो सरकार जो रैक पिकर्स की बात आ रही है, और जो कूड़ा करकट साफ करने की बात आ रही है, शौचालय साफ करने की बात आ रही है, प्रधानमंत्री के स्वच्छ भारत की बात आ रही है, तो जो दिल्ली को साफ रखने का, कचरा कूड़ा को प्रबंधन करने का, शौचालय साफ करने का, खुले रूप में शौच न जाए, इसका उपाय करे, उसी सरकार को वोट दो।
उसी सरकार को वोट दो। What would your demand be?
My demand is for Delhi to improve the sanitation environment of the city and to build better infrastructure to keep sewage in the sewers so that it doesn't affect the health of its citizens.
All right, let's get in some kids here. They're with us. Come on, tell me, what do you want? I know you can't vote for the next government. You're not yet 18. You're only in class 10. But what would your demand be from the next government?
First and foremost, we would like to thank the team of CNN-IBN for involving children in such a lovely discussion.
All right.
Well, our demands would be just one. So that all schools should have toilets, and in fact girl-friendly toilets, and even if they are toilets, they should be well maintained.
Okay.
As a student of class 10th, let me tell you that topics like waste management, segregation of waste is something which occupies a very less space in our textbooks. And even if it does, then it's taught in a very neglected manner by teachers. So the fact of the matter is that generation of mass awareness among students, involving students and children in such a big issue is of ultimate importance.
Okay, very quickly, do you think 5,000 rupees fine for littering, will that solve anything?
No, I don't think so.
Show us your face, yeah.
No, I don't think so that it will be effective.
Why?
People will give it fine and don't think about the waste management. People will easily give.
Is that a solution? Very limited in scope, but do you think it would end up doing any good for the capital?
No, because the solution is about reducing waste, not just fining, and about using your local resources, whether they're people like kabadis or citizens groups that can monitor how the waste. So I don't expect that fining is going to transform anything.
There should be some fine. There's one Chaitali village in the Betul district in Madhya Pradesh. Now Sarpanch is fining to the people who go outside for defecation.
Has it worked?
Yes.
All right.
Nobody goes outside now.
All right. Fines are short term, I guess, in its scope, but could just sort of help at least let our roads clean. They're cleaned every day by the evening.
VIPs in Delhi. There are too many VIPs in Delhi who will fight and demotivate people.
One question.
And then there's the whole thing of challans and corruption. So I'm completely out of time. I'm so sorry I have to cut you off. I'm completely out of time. I'm going to thank all our viewers for joining in this discussion. This discussion and debate, of course, continues on our website ibnlive.com. Thanks for watching.
Thank you.